something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
I'm rocking. I'm rolling. Well, no, actually, I'm not. The boat might be doing that, but I'm not really on the boat right now. I'm sitting in the bus. Well, we had to get something for you while we were on our way to Airlie Beach. So thanks for joining us on our cruise. We'll have an update tomorrow. That would be Wednesday from Airlie Beach. There'll be a live off the phone at some stage in the morning, and then we will see what goes on from there. All manner of madness, no doubt. But tonight, I want to have a bit of a chat with a bloke who I was lucky enough to meet last time I was down in Victoria, and we went to the My Place Wackety Creek get-together along the Murray River, the beautiful Murray River, just outside of Echuca. And this fella turned up, gave a wonderful presentation, and then invited people to go off and learn a few bushcrafting and other skills. And who knew how little you need to evade from, thermal imaging equipment and all that sort of gear. Anyway, Trevor the Prepper, he was known back then. But today, we're going to speak to him in his real name, under his real name, because he's got some real solutions for real problems for people in his area, and he's decided to put his name up for the forthcoming Victorian election. Now, at the moment, Trevor's trying to align himself with One Nation and is going through the process of their selection. So we wish him all the best with that. He is going to be contesting the seat of Ripon in Victoria, and I'll let him describe for you where that is. G'day, Trev. Thanks for joining me on The Voice of Freedom, and good luck with this. I don't think there's a better bloke in your area who could be standing up.
No, to be honest, nor do I, Carl. So I've been asked by a few people, even at executive levels and stuff like that, why not independent, Trev? Like, why would you just go independent? Like, you can click your fingers and have media turn up. You know how to, dig a hole, and you know how to put on a suit. Like, you're the guy for this. So Ripon, for those that don't know, starts from Ballarat. It goes out to Wedderburn. It goes where the big monster power lines are that they are trying to do at the moment out of Kenya. I went there the other day, met with Ben Duxon, who is the big farmer out there that's really putting up a fight on this. And I've been a community advocate for a couple of years. I've been made ambassador for the PTSD charity for cops and fireys and ambos, Bellator Full Tues. So I'm their Australian ambassador now. I've been doing bushcraft classes.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, so the thing is, Carl, like, I got asked, why wouldn't you go independent? Because they're curious. This is a very tight, this is a bellwether seat, which means it's a super close seat. This seat could be won or lost with 15 votes. And I said, look, the truth is I want to go with One Nation because I align with a lot of the principles of it. And I believe that Pauline's somebody who, like her or loathe her, says what she thinks and goes with what she means. Like, I think now more than ever, people who've been through COVID, and even then, like she was literally, her and Malcolm Roberts were two of the only people in the country at that level that would get up and say, hey, and how right were they? So I think that's the thing. I'm trying to get in with them. I've applied as a candidate. In 3 weeks' time, I'll let you know where we go with that, basically.
How that process goes. So if you don't get a One Nation pin, so let's say, will you still run as the independent?
Oh, I get to. Where's my politician's hat, Carl? I need my politician's hat.
Oh, don't do that, mate. There's too many cockies out there that'll see through it.
Yeah, no, that's true. I've said this to at the executive level. In 3 weeks' time, we're going to know who's endorsed, and it's as simple as this. go to Michael Schumacher and say to Michael Schumacher, all right, do you want to race Ferrari? Of course I want to race Ferrari. What driver do you want to be? I want to be the number one driver. If you're not the number one driver, what are you going to do? I want to be the number one driver for Ferrari. Right? In 3 weeks' time, when you've made up your mind whether you want me to race or not, then come and ask me like a question.
Yep.
But I'm telling you,
fair point.
I want to drive.
Very good. Very good. Well, you mentioned them. Let's talk about some of the issues that are confronting the people in that Ripon area that you're referring to. And it is, by and large, really good farming land, be it grazing land in some of it, and very, very, very rich wheat, barley, cropping land, certainly, north and south of where you are. And at the moment, they're trying to put these god-awful towers on it. This is the Victorian Parliament riding roughshod. I can imagine where you stand. I know you've been out. You've caught up with Ben, as you said. What's the general feeling in the communities about this? Not just, I know the farmers themselves aren't happy, but what are the townies saying about it?
No, nobody likes this, because let's look at greenwashing for a start. So if it's not ever been done on time, on budget, these things are already expected to cost billions more than what they were ever at first estimated at. If they're not subsidised, if it doesn't meet community expectations and desires, there's a whole range of things that we can look at where we could say that's clearly greenwash, right? So some of the big issues that we've got with these towers, mind you, these things are going to be 80 to 85 metres tall, and like you know, that's going a lot across a lot of good country. So
sure is.
Even before you want to talk about issues like devaluation, right? So as soon as you put these massive easements, and like Ben said to me, they're saying it'll be one line. He says, but once they've got the easement, how do we know if they're not going to put in 2 or 3? Because now they've got that easement. And he said, that's my land.
That's right.
That's my family's land. That's what we've worked for generations. And so that's the big thing. None of these things, they always show you this much, and they don't show you what's possible down 20 years. And the trouble is, so the farmer's land's already been devalued because somebody else isn't going to want to turn around and buy it. So when you look at what the footprint is of each of these tower bases, you start adding that up, and you're talking acres and acres. And when you're talking on tonnage, right, of cropping, you're losing tonnage, right? Not only that, but the firefighters, I went out there and I took a photo of a sign. I didn't go out with a film crew. I was actually sitting on the toilet the other day looking through Facebook because I had about 100,000 views of my little, since I said I'm going to run. That week I had about 100,000 views. I'm sitting on the toilet, and up comes Ben Duxon with his towers at Kunya. And I was like, that's in the electorate. I'm going to go see him. I had all these plans for that day. I got hundreds of fruit trees I needed to water on my farm because we haven't had rain. And I was like, no, this is more important. So I set off, no address, no nothing, just head to Kunya, find the man, shake his hand and say, look, mate, I'm nobody yet. I haven't been endorsed. But, I was an admin of Fox Hunting Australia. I've got farmer friends. I've got farming blood. Like, if I can help you, I will. And so we had a really, really good chat while he was out in the paddock with the airseed. I had to go out to a paddock and go and find him. And
great.
So some of the big troubles that we've got with these VNI towers is it is going to restrict firefighters in their ability to use aerial bombing. It's going to restrict firefighters in their ability to maneuver around the bases of these fires. Right? That's what the CFA is already saying. From a farmer point of view, it's going to interfere with traditional and with modern farming techniques. So modern farming techniques, if we want to take it to the now, is things like aerial spraying, is using drones and stuff like that, right?
Sure.
So it's going to restrict their ability to do that. But it also, when you look at how big these bases are, and you've got to figure, they're putting out big silos and semi-trucks and all this sort of stuff, right? It's actually making it a lot harder to maneuver around their farm.
Yeah.
And these are big easements that we're talking about here. So they're sort of a couple of the big troubles. The other troubles that the farmers have got with it is biosecurity. So you've got to figure, as you go from farm to farm and you're picking up little seeds here and bits there and bits there, the next thing you know, your farm that was all nice and looked after, suddenly you've got all these problems, and now you've got to spray. And like, I mean, Ben's farm, for example, is 5,000 acres. All right, if you want to know how long 5,000 acres is, okay, go to the CBD of Melbourne, and it would probably take you to about Brunswick, right, in length. So now you imagine you've got all these other exotic seeds coming all over your farm that are now making your life harder. The trouble is you've got these forced entry laws. So the trouble is, in their quest for climate change activism, the powers that be have turned around and said, right, you know, you don't need environmental assessments ticked off. You don't need ecological assessments ticked off. You can just go on, because we want to get these things prioritized, because everybody in the far left is pro net zero, right? But the trouble is, like Ben said to me, he said, even when it comes to First Nations signing off, right, and doing their actual assessments, which, let's say if you're going to buy a farm out here, you do a Section 32, all this sort of stuff, right? If it's along a water course or something like that, and you want to put up anything, you're going to have to do an Aboriginal heritage assessment to see if there's any artifacts laying about, right? A midden pile, spearheads, whatever, right? So Ben told me the other day that 2 years ago, they had a couple of First Nations people just driving around in a car, didn't go into any paddocks, didn't dig any holes, collected the dough apparently, squiggle.
Yep. I've heard stories of the same thing happening in far north Queensland for gold leases, where you can't get a gold lease until it's been walked over by First Nations people. And sometimes that'll take a day, a week, or a year. And sometimes that process can be sped up with a carton of beer and the facilitation of a bit more cash. But
when I was on the mines, so I did exploration. I've done everything. I've worked in confined spaces, in submarine diesel tanks, to name it, literally name it. I've done a lot of life for my age, right? So when I was out doing FIFO drilling, right, drills offsiding in the desert to get my deposit for my house, I met Mick Ball and Harry McKenzie, right? And these two guys were getting their qualifications to do all that archaeological assessment, right? Proper, full-blood Aboriginal man, been through their initiation, which missing teeth and stuff like that, which means you actually you're an adult in your culture. And they were out there for ages. Their donga was right next to mine. We used to sit around afternoon and they'd talk to me about spear points they'd found and stuff like that, because to their credit, where I was at Olympic Dam, they actually were putting the resources in to go around and go, okay, let's have a really big, and I mean, they were out there for a long time, but we got to know each other for a while out there. And they were actually doing that. And I think there's a part of that where we realised, like with Rio Tinto, where they just decided to blow up a bunch of ancient caves because there was, what was it, 30 million or $100 million worth of ore under it, and they were like, bugger it, just blow it up, right? And we understand that the kickback from that was so strong that the CEO of Rio Tinto got kicked out by his board. The shareholders actually voted and went, hey, like, we're not for that. Like, we're for resources, but that's too far. And that's really, I think the thing with all of this, Carl, is where does honesty find a sweet spot, right? And like I say,
when does it get employed? Because it's been my experience that people are only as honest as they have to be in business, and maybe sometimes in their personal life, but they're only as honest as they can be held accountable to be.
Well, I think it's a good point, and I think even in government we see that. So we know what now, thanks to people like Marina Pamela and stuff like that, shedding a light on fiduciary duty. We know what a model litigant is, for example. So we know, for
Yeah.
example, that if a local, federal, or state government is out to get you, it is their obligation to be the model litigant and have the higher ground and the most amount of reasonableness, etc. And I think that when it comes to big business like this, which is big business, you're talking billions of dollars, for a lot of stuff that we know doesn't stack up. Like you only have to look at solar. Like there are university studies, right, where it shows how many percent of solar panels go to landfill, how many percent of inverters go to landfill, right? How many of those panels don't make end of life, like life expectancy? Most of them won't even make half of their life expectancy, right? And then most of the warranties are null and void because the companies have left the country because it was all subsidised to begin with, right? And the thing is, where I'm trying to strike a chord in the electorate is in the reasonableness, right? So the lady that is the producer for ABC radio, right, out here, her partner is trying to run for the Greens. And she told me that she told him, you're going to have a hard time trying to beat Trevor because Trevor's got a qualification in Aboriginal culture. Trevor did volunteer work like 28 years ago in an Aboriginal community. Trevor was an outback tour guide for years. Trevor's farm is off grid. Like, this is the guy that actually lives it versus a person that lives in a city going, oh, it's a good idea. And I mean, there are so many different aspects that we can look at when it comes to this. You look all around here through the Grampians, and so my electorate runs through the Pyrenees, which is beautiful wine area. Same as the Grampians, we've got beautiful vineyards all through here. It goes into Great Western and that, where you've got Seppelts and Bess. You've got Fratton wines down the road. There's a number of great wineries around here. So like you said in the start, it's beautiful agricultural country, but we've got the Grampians just down there. That's so a couple of kilometres down the road from my farm is where Ripon goes into Lowen, and that's where you go to Moyston, Pomonal burnt out. I hugged Daniel that used to work at Mitre 10 when his whole place burnt down, and he held it in for about 3 days. He was still going to work, and I'm like, well, why are you coming to work? He goes, I've got to do something. And I said, look, man, I'm a Christian. Can I hold your hands and pray for you? And he said, Trevor, I'd really like that. And I prayed for him, and I put my arms around him, and he burst into tears, absolutely burst into tears. And he said, Trevor, I've been holding it in for 3 days. He says, I'm trying to tell the wife everything's okay. He said, everything's gone, rah. And I mean, this guy bawled, and he'd held it in since everything they owned got destroyed. And my big question when it comes to that is, why are we truckling to people in cities and city-centric politics that don't understand? Let people collect deadwood off the side of the road and not get the $800 and whatever it is, $48 fine that Dan Andrews decided was a good idea. Let them collect dead wood, because otherwise it all burns. Those last fires in the Grampians, I was at my mate's farm down the road with an IBC, right? That's an international bulk container, 1,000-litre, 1-ton container of water on the back of my ute, right, with hoses and pumps and stuff, right? Because hot sticks, and what a hot stick is it's like a pencil on fire. It's flying in the air from the Grampians and landing in the middle of the long grass in summer, and then smouldering, starting a spot fire, right? And I'm going around my friend's place trying to help them. And that's only, what, their farm's only like maybe 1.2 Ks from here at the most, And the thing is, we've got to understand, like I know from what I learned, I hold a research and share Indigenous culture qualification from Charles Darwin University, right? So we got to learn about mosaic burning and stuff like that. It's a simple thing. The First Nations did it for 60,000 years because they realised when you don't, it all goes. And what happened in the last fire? Ecological assessors have estimated it will take between 20 and 30 years for the Grampians to recover.
Wow.
Like, the thing is...
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because 40-odd years ago, there was big fires down around there in the same area, the Ash Wednesday fires. I don't know how deeply they got into the Grampians, but I know that Dadswell's Bridge has gone up a few times in the last 20 years. There's been some fires around on the northern side of the Grampians heading up towards Horsham. And I've got to admit, the area looks beautiful 12 months, 2 years after a fire. I drove over the Black Spur. I think it was 2.5 years after the horrible fires that went through the Yarra Valley in Victoria a few years back, and it was absolutely beautiful with that new growth. And that's the beautiful thing about Australian bush. It needs a fire through it occasionally, and it thrives afterwards. However, you don't need those sorts of fires in cropping land, and you've got broad acreage cropping out your way. Tell me, Trev, there's a by-election this weekend happening in Victoria for the Victorian seat of Nepean. One Nation and the Liberal Party seem to be the most likely two candidates to contest that seat. Labor haven't even stood anybody up in it. Is there a lot of interest in Victoria at the moment just to see how much One Nation support there might be in that? Well, Nepean's an interesting seat because it's down the Mornington Peninsula way, and there's a lot of aged people living down that way, and would ordinarily, you would think, be very conservative voters. So, what are your thoughts?
I think it speaks volumes when Labor's not going to field a candidate. I think that sort of tells you everything. The thing that they know is if they field a candidate, the blowback they're going to get is going to really knock them out in other areas. So they're hoping just to go, okay, we've screwed up over there. Let's just pretend that seat doesn't exist. And that way all these other ones are sort of safe. But I think the trouble that Labor's having is, so out here, as you're aware, and as your viewers would be well aware from how well versed you are on the geography of the area, is traditionally here, for example, the Cocky voted Liberal, the Shearer voted Labor, and that went on forever. And across Victoria, the sentiment really is people are now not just going with what they're used to, but now they've finally got to that point where they're like, I'm not voting just for that because Grandpa voted for that and Dad voted for that, and I got brought up in the shearing shed, voted for that. Now they're going, hang on, this party doesn't even represent my views, because the old saying of, oh, well, if it wasn't for the Labor Party, you wouldn't have workers' rights and whatever. Yeah, but now it's got to the point where the unions are literally extortionist gangs. And I mean, like, really, literally. And we know that. And people are going, hang on, this isn't good. You can't just, it's like this. I've got a farm, right? I've just finished painting lime wash over my fruit trees, because when I don't, right, the rabbits come along and they chew. And once they've ring-barked that fruit tree, bye-bye 5 years of work. Yeah. Right? You've lost 5, and you're doing that with like 50, 100, 200. Right? And the thing is, you've got to know, it's like Anthony Robbins says, right? Classic saying. Find out if you want milk in the coffee first, because let's face it, it's really hard getting milk out of coffee once it's in and it's stirred around. And the trouble is, people are starting to see, okay, much as my life is hard, a lot of people are still rebuilding their lives from the onslaught of COVID and the restrictions and career losses and things like that. Much as life is consuming and taxing and whatever, a lot of people are realizing, okay, it's time to start looking at who my candidate is, what they're saying, not only what they're saying, can they vote independently, right, of the party? So, for example, out here, Martha Haylett, she went around, she visited all the CFA volunteers. They were like, oh, look, we're cockies. We shouldn't have to pay this emergency services or heavy tax. A lot of times we're fighting a fire somewhere else and our own place is burning around, right? Yes. This isn't fair. And she said, yes, I understand. Walked into Parliament, and Albo and the rest went, right, tax, yeah, right, tax. And they're spewing about it. So the thing is, in all of these other electorates, people are really starting to look and go, okay, what can I trust? And this is something that's even been said to me at an executive level recently. Right? Like you're the first media that knows this, right? And some of this is skirting on this side of an NDA, right? So I'll make sure I stay this side of my NDA, right? But the thing is, I've had it said to me, Trevor, everybody knows that, like, you're really passionate. And I'm like, yeah, I go to the farmhouse every day and have a cup of tea with my mate every day in his farmhouse, every day. And his nephew was in a wheelchair for 30 years, walked into the local hospital for 5 days straight saying, I've had enough of this wheelchair, I've had enough of life. And they just kept sending him home until he worked out how to kill himself, right? I know a number of people out here, farmers and that. I know one who's attempted suicide twice. And like I said to the executive, I know that when I'm in warrior mode, I'm full on. But do you think somebody's actually going to sit there and tell me that if when it comes to time to sit down around the table and have a cup of tea and a couple of bickies and hear their whole story and work out how I can advocate for them, do you think I don't know how to shut up, listen, take notes, and put this power in after that? First I listen and I take the notes and I work out, all right, how am I going to help this person? And then I use this energy wisely. And I think that's one of the things that the party's working out at the moment is, okay, what kind of dynamic animal is Trevor? And the thing is, one of the things that attracts me to try and be the candidate for Ripon is because we're encouraged to vote what the constituents want, not what the party wants at federal level, right? Because, and this is the thing, like touching on like what you're saying with Napier and that, people are having enough of candidate says A in front of me, their party goes and says B, and they walk into Parliament House and go, okay, B. And everyone's like, hang on, like you came to my place. Like I told you my story. I told you why this is unfair.
So one of the excuses that the parliamentarians use for that particular practice is that they get so much legislation that they couldn't possibly read it all. So they give their underthings, their assistants, and their advisors the legislation to read. And then the advisors come back and advise the minister on what they've discovered in it or what questions should be raised from it or whatever. So in many cases, until there is something highlighted in a piece of legislation, the minister who's voting on it won't, in many cases, have read anything other than the executive summary of it. And that's how we've got ourselves, glad voted into, I think in many cases, the position that we're currently finding ourselves. Tell me, in Victoria, I know a difference has to be made. Labor has decimated that state, and whether it's One Nation or whether it's whoever, what has to happen in Victoria, in your mind, for Victorians to want to keep living in the state? Because at the moment, Victorians are flocking out of the state in numbers not seen since the John Cain days.
I'm only here because of the border lockdowns. My daughter lived in this state. Before that, I'd work 3 weeks straight. I'd come over for 1 week, and I did that for the first 3 years of her life. And then they did the border restrictions. And then eventually I just sold up and I moved here. I was like, all right, this is what I got to do. And I'm still trying to put Humpty back together after 5 years, whereas I had a house, almost paid off and ready to go, and I understand that. So I understand why a lot of people say that. And I think you can go on from that even, Carl. So I'll answer your question first and then let me expand on that a little bit into the new Asia laws. So what needs to happen is people need to have a sense of agency, all right? That like, okay, the farm that's been in the family for generations, or I'm the first generation of Andrei's to own this farm, right? There needs to be some sort of sovereignty on that, right? So if you look at Dillon versus Plenty, 1991, I'm sure a lot of your viewers will be familiar with this. So that's a federal high court ruling made in 1991, and it was actually cited in that by 3 judges. They went back to a case from, I think it was 1762. It was like hundreds of years ago, right? Where it says, and I'll loosely tell you what it says from my memory, where it says these 3 judges reference this to show what it means that your house is yours, you own your property. They said, right, be it that the man's tenement may be in rack and ruin, and the door falling from the hinge thereof. Yet nonetheless, the king hath no right to enter therein. Like these three judges said that in 1991 to go like to reference from hundreds of years ago. Like your place should be yours. Now we've got these stupid forced entry laws where farmers are sitting there facing $6,000 or $8,000 penalties to say, I own it. This is mine. Right? And now if you want to go one further than that, now we've got these stupid ASIO laws where they can pluck a person off the street, no charge, no suspicion, no nothing, force you to answer questions, not have a lawyer. Like that's Guantanamo Bay, man.
And when they let you go, you're not allowed to tell anybody about it.
That is, I mean, we are at a point where the left has lost the plot so hard. They are, they are the paradox of draconian and woke in one thing. If you could get draconian and woke, and you could like crush it like a diamond and make it the strongest that could be, that's the Labor Party right now. Like it is absolutely, it begs belief. I had to tell my daughter the other day, right? My daughter's mum tells me the other day, oh, our daughter was on the talk for a long time, and sometimes she's reading, right? Because my daughter's a mad bookworm. She's read at least 1,000 or 2,000 books, at least. And she's like, what's taking you so long? I'm having trouble going to the toilet. Why? Oh, I've been holding on at school for the last few days. Why don't you just go to the toilet? Oh, because they've changed the law at school that because they have to have a chaperone. They have to have a buddy to go to the toilet, right?
Wow.
And it's always been a person of the same sex, right? And it's been okay for years. But the principal, with no consultation with parents, just decided he's going to change it. That now primary school kids going through puberty have to go to the toilet in class time with no teachers out there or whatever with a member of the opposite sex. So now when my daughter's had to go to the toilet, she's had to sit there and cross her legs in class until the class finishes, which for males that don't know is a big risk of a UTI for a female. To the point that this went on for days where she finally told her mum, and her mum cracked it at me, and I was like, that's it, I'm writing a letter. So I told the principal, I wrote a letter to the principal on behalf of both of us. I sent it to my daughter's mum, and I said, I've written this letter right now. If you okay it, send it, which she did. And it said, you go to my daughter's classroom right now. I'm ordering you as the parent. We are ordering you as the parents. You tell our daughter she doesn't have to sit there cross-legged trying not to wet herself all day because she thinks it's weird going to the toilet with a boy. If she wants, she can pick a girl, she can go now. I wrote that. Do you know what the teacher did? What the principal did? The principal went to the class, pulled my daughter out of the class, took her to the office by himself, sat her down and grilled her on why she's not comfortable going to the toilet with a boy. Is it the walk there? Is it he's sitting outside or whatever? When I found about that, I wrote him another letter and I said, go on, do it again. I double dare you to do that. You do that one more time, put my daughter through mental duress and physical duress, and I will take you to court. Oh. Right? We are at a point. Somebody asked me a question the other day, right, on the Facebook page, because I've had hundreds of thousands of views in a couple of weeks, which is why everybody's wondering, all right, if Trevor doesn't get the role with Ferrari, is Trevor going to put his own stickers on the racing car and ride? Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody's wondering this. And I just can't believe that we're at this point. Somebody wrote me the other night at 8:30 at night on Facebook, what are your views on the LGBTQI plus things in this area? Mind you, this area is 150 kilometers long, right?
Yeah.
My electorate's 150k long, right? You've got a lot of different, it stretches from Lucas at the side of Ballarat, where you've got brand new subdivisions, to farms that literally take up the CBD per farm.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're talking a lot of different hats in the room. So this person sends me this thing, and I started writing, and I was going to say, look, you know, like I'm a real find the right shade of grey guy. You know, I'm not a black and white guy. Let's work out the shade of grey that fits, you know? And I said, like, so long as in my mind, So long as you're not taking away somebody else's rights and making it that they're now being copying a hard time, so to speak. I'll find the proper word in a minute. Being discriminated against. Right? My daughter doesn't want to go to talk with the boy, to the point where she's sitting there freaking out at class and crossing her legs all day, trying not to wet herself. Right? And I started writing it. I thought, no. I shouldn't have to write about that. So I just wrote, look, if you tell me what exact concerns you want my opinion on, I will tell you. Right? And then within a few minutes, they wrote back and they said, oh, don't worry, clearly you don't understand. I'm not going to answer anything. I would not vote for you. Right? Mind you, this is nearly 9 o'clock at night, and I've been doing volunteer work at a school 80 kilometres away, all day teaching kids how to make bushcraft shelters so that they can learn like social cohesion and how to communicate with each other and team building, which they love, the principal loved, the teachers loved, everybody loved. Right? Love. I'm doing it next Tuesday as well. And
great.
So it's like 9 o'clock at night, and I thought, no. So I wrote out what the problems were in that community, and I said, okay, I know what the umbrella of the problems are, right? Which is like discrimination in getting doctor's appointments, getting mental health assessment, right? The Rainbow Road, blah blah blah. I know what those umbrella topics are, but what I'm asking you is, do you have a particular a particular case? Like I'm used to advocating for people. You bring me an issue and I help you pull it apart and try and facilitate a better outcome, right?
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, no, you didn't answer it the first time, blah, blah, blah. And I said to them, do you understand that you've asked me a question at nearly 9 o'clock at night on Facebook, and within 10 minutes of you asking me that question, I've given you the umbrella of what the issues are in your area, showing, okay, I understand what the umbrella of your issues are. Do you have an actual case where this has happened or something where I can say, okay, if I was the candidate, I would go to Mick and I'd be like, okay, Mick, you come with me. We're going to go to the ombudsman. This is how we can go. And they were, no, I'm not going to talk. And I said, okay. I said, I want you to get onto the big left candidate out there, who's the current sitting member, which is Martha Hale for Ripon, and I want you to write her a message at 8:45 at night on Facebook and see when she gets. I just want you to tell me when she gets back to you.
Yeah. Well, look, to be honest, don't go making statements like that now, because if you get elected, you're going to find yourself a hell of a lot busier and you might find it a lot more difficult to get to your Facebook messages. So I'm just giving you a friendly warning.
Hang on, Carl, because hang on, because I'm going to tell you something that I know. Right, like I've done hundreds of hours of advocating, right? Like I've got active IBAC cases going with people and everything, right now. It's been going on for a long time and a lot. Now, I don't know what your viewers think the state member's job is, right? But literally, I'm going to put it into the pigeonhole, right? Literally, the purview is literally listening to problems and suggestions and trying to facilitate better outcomes. Okay, that
was going to be my next question. Have you gone out at this early juncture? Maybe not possible, but I'm sure if you are given the blessing of the orange shirt, will you be going out and doing any listening tours?
I've already done them. You wait 1 second, okay? I'll be back. Stay there 1 second, okay? I'll be back in less than 26 seconds. You got me?
No worries. I don't know. Should I put a countdown timer on? I'm not completely sure. I'm pretty good with guessing times. I've been able to speak for 30 seconds without a stopwatch pretty much for the last 25 or 30 years. So we can probably prattle along and fill a hole. I will tell you that I'm sure we're having a fabulous time on the ship. And if not, we've all got seasickness or barley belly or whatever it is you get on a ship. And you hear him 26 seconds later. Don't necessarily see him, but here we go. Pretty close.
How'd I go? Not bad?
Yeah, okay. Not bad.
Here's what I've already drawn up in anticipation, because I've dealt with federal members, state members, councils advocating, and I mean, we're talking thousands of emails, right?
Yeah.
Lots and lots and lots of interaction. And here's what I haven't seen from anyone, local, state, or federal, in thousands of interactions. This is my contact sheet.
Okay.
Okay. So what it means is when I go doing listening posts, which I hope I'm wearing orange, but I will be doing listening posts. I hope I'm wearing orange, but I will be doing listening posts. I already have done listening posts. What I'm going to do, because there's already people like Maryborough, former Citizen of the Year and stuff like that, a lot of people have already resonated with me because I've done hundreds of Facebook posts already, videos and commentaries and stuff, met people, hung out with people, right? I mean, for the whole day, we're sitting around talking about all these things, right? Where people have said, if you get to be the guy, I want to be a volunteer with you. And I'm like, yep, no worries.
Yeah, great.
So we can go and do listening posts, and they can say, okay, because you can't see, but I've got this all watermarked underneath, right? So you can write straight over. So it says form filled by, and it says surname, give a name underneath. You can't see that, right? Constituent info, their name, their blah, 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 their addresses, right? Are they a member of the party?
What you're saying is you're prepped and ready to take down the details when you start the listening post.
Yeah, but not just that. Let me just go into this a touch more, right? Because this is what none of them do, Carl, because they don't care, right? Yeah. It's all, oh, hello, Mark, kiss the baby. Oh, hello.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of baby shaking and hand kissing going along, for sure.
You could walk up to them 5 minutes ago and 5 minutes later and say, like, did you actually, like, so what are you going to do about this? Because Fred's told me 36 times he's ready to kill himself and he's not joking. Oh, who's Fred?
Yeah.
Right. So important dates, deadlines, issue, idea, stakeholders, request further information, yes or no, from who? Local, federal, state, government, others specify. And then it's even got a part where it goes to official use only. You get a case number. It's allocated to a person in the office.
Yeah.
Right? If they're only a volunteer and they move on or go back to uni or they've got to go and work in the hospital or something next week, reallocate it to whoever. Right? The dates it's resolved, and if it's not, then it goes onto a computer system. So we start with this at the listening level, then that gets put onto a computer system, and then it goes to here. Okay, every time something happens, the date, the time, the action taken, the response received, and the description. That way, even if Mary leaves after 2 weeks, because she's pregnant or something, right, then it gets reallocated to Fred. And he goes, okay, what are our case notes here? What's going on with this case? But I want to go even further. I've already spoken about how I want to try and finding out what software there is, because I know what it's like. I've done thousands of these info. Now, I used to work 10 hours a day in a normal job and spend 4 hours a night, every night of the week at other people's places doing their paperwork for them. And you're waiting like 6 months. Hang on, Carl. You're waiting like 6 months or a year to hear anything back. Hemorrhaging money, stress out your ears, your relationship's falling apart, your kids are worried about you. I've seen this, right? And you're hearing crickets, right? I want to have it when it goes to the next level and something happens. It flicks you back an email and it says, hey, case number 352642. Okay, we just heard back from the Ombudsman, right? They've turned around and they've recommended that we put this to the local government inspectorate, okay? So your case manager has been reallocated. Mary's gone away. It's now going to Fred, right? We're going to send this off to the local government inspectorate. You get a message and you go, cool. You still there, Carl? Oh, a meeting's not a meeting without some blank time.
Sorry, mate. I've had a little bit of a conniption here. I've lost my background and it disappeared off.
Okay.
So my apologies. I missed the last part of that, but we are getting towards the end of it at any rate. So I just wanted to reiterate that folks in the Ripon area of Victoria, Trevor Andrei's name you're going to be seeing popping up around the place. And Trev, 3 weeks, wait, I look forward to hearing a positive result from your application to go forward with One Nation. I think it's going to be probably the most exciting election in Victoria's history, I think, coming up in November. And it would be awesome for you to be a part of it. Of course, if none of that comes to fruition, there is always the other persona, Trevor the Prepper. So I can't let you go without giving people a bit of a tip on something to be ready for should the world turn upside down and go to shit in the near future.
Okay. Again, give me 12 seconds and I'll actually show you something. This one will be 12.
All right. 12 seconds. Well, this is a bloke who knows how to time things down to the absolute second. Rare that you find individuals with this level of accurate timing ability. I used to have a girlfriend who said, I'll be there in 5 minutes. And that used to take 25 or 30 minutes at least. So, gotta say, you're a little over exaggerated. Oh, look at that. You've got something for the car. Fuel stabilizer.
Okay. Okay, I'll be back in less than 26 seconds.
I just wanted to reiterate that of accurate timing ability. I used to have a girlfriend who said, I'll be there in 5 minutes. And that used to take 25 or 30 minutes at least. So, gotta say, you're a little over exaggerated. Oh, look at that. You've got something for the car. Fuel stabilizer.
Okay, so the beauty of this fuel stabilizer, right, because let's face it, we're still touch and go on, is there fuel, is there not going to be fuel? People that know me, that have seen me over the years, might recall that 6 or 7 years ago, I've been on the media saying under the IEA, we're meant to have 90 days of fuel. I mean, I was saying that 6 or 7 years ago. I was saying that back when the 2019 bushfires were on.
Yep.
So the big thing is, let's talk about having something aside in case you need it. Okay.
Yep.
So a lot of people like Carl and I, we know people that are in our communities, and there's sometimes times where we say to people, okay, look, you can come here. You know, I've hung out with you a fair bit. You're pretty good, you know, you come here. Or there might be a family member that you want to get to, you know, to help them or whatever, right? Now, the question is, how much fuel do you need to get to your bug out location if you've got a bug out location? That could be a national park where you know there's good fishing near it or whatever, and you decide if the world goes to shit one day, that's where we're going to go. We're going to set up a camp. There's good fishing. There's fresh water. You know, what are they going to do? Kick you out of a national park when World War III is going on? I don't think so, right? But how do you get there? Because you're going to need petrol, right? Unless you've got a good push bike. Right, which isn't a bad idea. I'm currently building a bug out bike at the moment, right, which is a push bike with like one of those little motorized engines. So the beauty of something like this, so this is fuel stabilizer. So when you can get fuel and it comes down in price a bit, like now where it's sitting at about $2.45 a litre for diesel, right? If you were to put, say, 2 jerry cans aside, right? So you've got 2 jerry cans, that's 40 litres, right? you're going to get at least, 10 kilometers out of a decent car per litre. So that's 400 k's. That's pretty far, right? But the thing is, within 3 to 6 months, that fuel is useless, right? So the good thing we've got this, right, is this will run on E10, 91, 95, 98, and diesel, right? The only thing this will not work with is E85, but all of your normal fuels that you would normally be buying, be it unleaded or be it diesel, you can put this in. So it's like 25 mils to 20 litres, right? So 50 mils of that, and you've got 2 jerry cans done, right? So this whole thing here, like if you're thinking, okay, well, I might want to go, from where Carl is to Cape Tribulation or something, and you want a 44-gallon drum. Or you just think, you know what, I want a 44-gallon drum. That way I know I've got enough fuel for next year's harvest. Like for farmers that don't know, all right, is fuel going to be, it's gone down now. It was at 350 the other day, it's now at 250. If I was a farmer, I'd be going out, I'd be getting myself a 44-gallon drum. So a 44-gallon drum, and you put one of these in it, and it's now good for at least a year. Right.
Great.
So
thanks, mate.
That's probably the thing that we always want to think, Carl. I want to give you a couple of quick tips and then I'll go. Right. Is the thing that we always want to think is, what's my situation? There's no point me telling you how to prepare for a snowstorm and you live in a desert. So the thing that you want to do is you want to do a SWOT analysis yourself. Get a piece of paper, draw it up in the cross, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and have a look at where I live, where I work, and try and plan for that. Because I'll give you a real quick tip on this. So I had suspected, we'll say, that things were going to get a bit rickety and rackety for a while with the way the world's going. So when I got my tax return, I paid my year's rego. I went out and I got new tyres for my car. I didn't pay for brand new ones. I bought a new set that nobody had used off Facebook. I paid $300 for a set of BT50 Ranger wheels and tyres, complete, ready to go.
Yeah, wow.
Right? And that way I know, because the thing that we know is the government's never going to turn around and say, oh, poor pumpkin. We've stuffed the whole economy up. We've stuffed the country up, right? Your bat went hard. Oh, you can't afford your rego and your tyres are a bit bald. Oh, that's no good. But let me get my pen here and write you a little ticket out for that.
Yeah.
Right? The thing that we know is, if your rates aren't paid, and if your rego is not paid, and if your tyres don't have tread on them, they don't care. They're not going to say, hey, man, I get it. Like, we've really dropped the ball again. I'm sorry you're doing something. No, they're going to be like, here's your ticket. So if you do your SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, for anybody that wants to know any more, if you look me up on Facebook, it's just under my name, Trevor Andrei. If you've got, if you've got an actual question you want to ask me, or you want me to dial you in a little bit, so you're going through a SWOT analysis and you're like, oh, I'm not really sure how far I'm meant to go with this, 0413 174 384. So long as you're not calling me at like 10 o'clock at night or at 2 o'clock in the morning, give me a buzz. I'm happy to help.
Right, mate. You're a brave man. Thank you very much for coming on, and good luck with, first of all, getting into One Nation, and second of all, with the election.
Yeah, it'll be okay. Like I say, I intend to be in the driving seat. I'd like the car to be orange.
Very good.
But I intend on being in the driver's seat. No worries.
Fingers crossed, brother.
Cheers, Carl.
Trevor Andrei, down in Victoria, the seat of Ripon, and good luck to him in his attempt to become elected, hopefully with One Nation, in the Victorian state election happening later this year. Of course, there is a big one coming up for the seat of Farrer this weekend. We'll keep you up to date with a bit more news on that on Friday night. For those of you that are playing along at home, I'm going to head back to the bar. The karaoke bar must have just about be ready open, and I've got to go singing apparently tonight. So look out. We'll see what happens. Enjoy yourself. Be safe on the roads, folks. There are plenty of dickheads on there, and I haven't seen another dickhead out on the out here at sea, although I'm sure there are a few of them floating around on probably the deck below me.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's rock!